Hi everyone, this is Helen from Helen Westwood Maths, just jumping on to do a quick revision video talking about expanding and factorising double brackets, which is something I've been working on quite recently. So you can see we've got this first example. You might like to ask your GCSE Maths student to have a go at expanding it using their preferred method. I'm then going to demonstrate two methods shortly. So the first one, very common one that students used, an arrows method, often called FOIL, which stands for first, outside, inside, last. So when we're multiplying out or expanding our brackets, remember we're multiplying those together. We can imagine that multiplication sign in the middle there. So when we multiply out, we're going to get four terms, the first being x squared from multiplying x by x. Then we're going to multiply x by positive 4, which gets us positive 4x. That's multiplying our second arrow just here. Then we've got 5 times x, our inside arrow. And then finally, our last 5 times 4 gives us positive 20. So that's almost like our sort of first line of workings when we get those four terms. To get our final answer, notice that we can simplify 4x add 5x together. So that will be plus 9x plus 20. So we know that those double brackets multiply out to give us x squared plus 9x plus 20. But if you prefer another method rather than the arrows method, we have some people prefer this more visual method of our grid method. So we write x plus 5 along one side of the grid, x plus 4 along the other. Again, remember that we're multiplying. And then when we complete our grid in the same way, x times x gives us x squared, x times positive 5 gives us positive 5x, positive 4 times x gives us our positive 4x, and then our 4 times 5 gives us our positive 20. And then you can see that when you simplify, so when you write out the four terms from the grid, we get our x squared plus 5x plus 4x plus 20. So we'd get exactly the same answer. Okay, so another one to try, just flagging this one up because you'll notice this time we've got a mixture of positive and negative. So we've got subtract, we've got add in terms of in the two brackets. I'm just going to work this one out to demonstrate with our arrows method. But of course, we can still use our grid method in the usual way. You'll see the four terms that you'd get with either your arrow method or your grid method. So again, just pausing in case you want to pause this video while your GCSE Maths student has a go at this. So x times x gives us x squared. X times positive 3 gives us positive 3x. Minus 7 times x gives us minus 7x. And then negative 7 times positive 3 gives us negative 21. And then again, we can simplify those middle terms. So we're going to have x squared at the beginning. 3x minus 7x gives us minus 4x. And then we have minus 21 on the end. So having talked through some examples and methods you can use for expanding double brackets, I'm now going to talk about how we can approach factorising into double brackets. So you can see what we've got here looks like the answers that we were just getting. Now, what can be helpful is for students just to remember that we know that we get this number on the end from multiplying the numbers within the double brackets, and then they're going to combine together to make the 11x, if you look back at those examples that we've just done. So what can be a good starting point is because we've got x squared at the beginning, we know that we've got that by multiplying x by x. And then we think about what numbers will multiply together to give 30. So because both of these signs here are positive, we know we're going to have both positive numbers within our brackets. So if we write out our factor pairs of 30, we're looking for what numbers multiply together to give 30 and then combine together to give 11. Now I say combine rather than add because sometimes we might have a mixture of positive and negative numbers. So we can see that the factor pairs that combine together to give 11 but multiply to give 30 are 5 and 6. So we're going to put x plus 5 and x plus 6. Equally, you could have it the other way around. X plus 6 times by x plus 5 would be an equivalent answer. Okay, so final example of factorising into our double brackets. This one takes a little bit more thinking about because we're going to have negative numbers to consider here. We can see that because we've got the minus 48 on the end. So we're going to factorise this into double brackets with our x at the beginning. But because we've got negative 48 here, we know that we get a negative answer by multiplying a positive number by a negative number. So we know that one of the brackets is going to be positive, one's going to be negative. And then we're thinking about the numbers that combine together to give positive 2 or has a difference between them as positive 2. So when you're listing your factor pairs, this can be a bit more of a longer process because you can see how for each factor pair, we can be switching the signs between the positives and negatives. Okay, so I'm going to jump to the pairs that we're going to be interested in because we know that 6 times 8 is 48. So we've got negative 6 times positive 8 or positive 6 times negative 8 will give us 48. But we want to think about which of those pairs would combine together to give positive 2, which would be this one. Because if we think minus 6x plus 8x, that's going to give us positive 2x, which we've got in the middle there. Therefore, we know that the minus, because it's minus 6, the 6 is going to go there where we've got minus 6 in the bracket, and the 8 is going to go just there. So hopefully that was a helpful reminder of the methods that we can use for expanding and factorising into double brackets. I'll see you online soon.